that any different from contraception? I do not understand how just not having sex when there's no egg is any different from putting a barrier method or altering hormones so that you're not fertile and can't get pregnant. And here's the difference. It was God's idea to not make the couple fertile all the time. Hello, it's Elizabeth Busby here, the Director of Programs for the Theology of the Body Institute. I am joined by my buddy Blaze, who's having a little bit of a nap because he wants to be with Mama, and I want to be with you. So we're going to talk today about what is NFP. Now, this topic is something that is super heated. Some people come to this video wanting to know what it is genuinely because they want to practice it in their life or they're interested in learning about it for their own well-being. Some people are coming to this video, to be totally honest, because they're kind of scoffy and they're like, this doesn't work. It's the grandmother's rhythm method. You're going to have 17 children if you don't use contraception. So I am going to dispel that last myth, and I'm going to sit with you kind of like a sister and talk to you just very openly and honestly about what natural family planning is and why it is worth your time to know it. So NFP stands for Natural Family Planning. That means that you are using something other than an artificial means to stop a pregnancy when a couple comes together in marital intimacy. So this means you're not using a barrier method for the man or woman. You're not using a hormonal something that tinkers with her hormones that makes her not fertile. You are using natural means. Now, in order to explain what this is, I'm going to have to use some biology terms. This is the talk that I wish you guys would have gotten when you were an adolescent and you were learning about bodies, and I want to frame it for you in the context of how beautiful the body is. I want you to understand that the way that God designed the female body, all bodies, but the female body is so beautiful. And if you can shed those misconceptions that you have that these things are dirty or gross or awful, then you will be able to hear with fresh ears and learn the beauty that the woman's body has, and learn to speak the language of her body so that you don't have to rely on artificial things in order to be open to life, but also in order to know what's going on with your cycle if you're a woman, to know and understand how to live God's design for your body. All sorts of beautiful things. So when I say NFP, natural family planning, it's actually not just for family planning. It really is fertility awareness, right? A woman's body is very tuned into her fertility. Every month she goes through a cycle, really at all times. She's going through a cycle. She's at some point in her cycle of fertility. And so it's important that her body is functioning in a healthy way. And a lot of bodies don't function in a healthy way. So using fertility awareness methods allows a woman to tune in where she's not totally healthy and get the help that she needs to become totally healthy. So it's not just for fertility. It's for any woman who has a body, who has started her cycle, she's gone through puberty. Any woman can benefit from knowing how her body works and knowing what is healthy so that you can get, if you're not healthy, so that you can get the help you need to be healthy. And truly, every man can benefit from this because so many men have this stigma that this is gross or dirty or yucky or icky or not for him. But in reality, it's the duty of every man. JP2 says the duty of every man is to uphold the dignity of every woman. And being able to uphold the dignity of woman includes the way that her body functions, the beauty of her body. So this is an important video for both men and women. And now I'm going to get into a lot of the specifics that you probably haven't heard before. You may be a little bit squeamish, but I'm really going to ask you to stick with me. There is beauty to be had here. And I want you to challenge yourself to think about who told you that this was dirty, who told you this was yucky and icky, and take a minute to think about those voices in your mind and tell them they are wrong. This is beautiful. This is beautiful. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing dirty and icky here. And I want you to know that, and I want you to be able to live in that freedom. So a woman's body functions cyclically. That means that every month her body, the cycle is starting over. The day one of her cycle is when she starts her period. And there are actually 4 phases of this cycle. So there's the cycle where the part of her cycle where she starts her period. And then there's after she started her period, but before she ovulates. Then there's when she ovulates. And then there's what's called the luteal phase after she ovulates. That is prepping her body either to have a pregnancy and to keep that baby alive, or when her body realizes she's not pregnant, it begins the cycle again. And she starts her period again. Now, what is very fascinating about this is that when she is fertile, her body communicates that with different signs. The signs that her body communicates are through temperature. So her temperature will change just a little bit right before she ovulates, and cervical mucus. So it's not just period bleeding. There's also cervical mucus. And this cervical mucus, the purpose of it is to keep the sperm alive in her body so that it can reach the egg. But it also, when you learn about this mucus and you learn the different kinds of mucus, you are able to tell which parts of the mucus are communicating, or which types of mucus, I guess, are communicating when she's ovulating. What's cool about this is if she is not ovulating, if there is no egg, it is impossible for her to get pregnant. Now, men who are here, you are capable of impregnating a woman as soon as you hit puberty, literally at any moment and for the rest of your life. When I think about this and the incredible responsibility that men bear, I am so grateful that the Lord gave that responsibility to men and frankly, not to me, because that is a very, very high calling. There is a lot of responsibility that goes with being able to conceive at any moment, basically. The reason why is because your body, men, your body has this natural drive to continue to populate the earth, right? To continue to have babies. We call it a sex drive. And this is like the reason that it's so strong in a man is because he is perpetually capable of having babies. Now, the flip side of that is it's not always a great time to come together with your bride and have a baby. Maybe you're not married at all. There are a myriad of different areas where it would not be appropriate to use that fertility. So it is the responsibility of a man to learn how to be in control of himself. Men, in a very special way, have been given a huge responsibility to learn that self-control and be able to harness that ability to desire to have babies all the time and the ability to have babies all the time. It is his responsibility to learn how to control that. The good news is there is also grace for that. So with the responsibility comes the grace to be able to live in that space and to be able to develop that self-control. So when you are thinking about a woman's body and thinking about these 4 stages of her cycle, I want you to really think about the fact that when there's no egg, she's not able to get pregnant. So what that means is for the vast majority of her cycle, a woman is not able to conceive a baby. Now, a man is able to conceive at any time, but a woman is only able to conceive when the egg is present. The egg is alive for about 24 hours of the month, but that cervical mucus keeps the sperm alive for a few days. So there's only a few days where a woman is capable of conceiving a baby, which means there's only a few days of the month where the couple is capable of conceiving a baby, because even though a man can conceive at any time, the couple can only conceive when the egg is there. So here's why natural family planning and fertility awareness is so effective when it's used properly. If the egg is not there, you cannot conceive a baby. It is impossible to conceive a baby without an egg. So learning the cycle, the particular cycle of the woman, learning her body signs and learning those rhythms of her body and knowing when there's an egg and when there's not an egg, that allows the couple to decide if they're open to conceiving a baby right then or if not. So what do you do with this information? Well, if you are in a place where you are considering avoiding a pregnancy, you have a serious reason to avoid, you've discerned that it's not a good time to have a baby, you make use of the natural periods of infertility. The natural period's probably not the word I should have used. The natural season of infertility in the woman's cycle, and that's when you come together in marital intimacy. If you are wanting to achieve a pregnancy, you can really use that time where she's ovulating and use that time to come together as a couple and conceive a baby. This requires a lot of self-control. And this is where natural family planning and fertility awareness methods get a lot of flack from people. And that is because people do not want to use self-control. They especially don't want to use sexual self-control. We are living in a culture that has communicated to us since long before anyone watching this video was alive, probably, that you should be allowed to have sex whenever you want, with whomever you want, however you want. It has been ingrained in us that sex is the end all be all, and you should be able to have it whenever you want. And anyone who tells you that you can't, or you shouldn't, or whatever is an idiot, basically. And I want to challenge that because the gift of your sexuality is something that is meant to be used in certain instances for certain purposes, for the unitive and procreative gift of yourself to another, because sex communicates something very important. It is not cruel to communicate to you that you can't have sex whenever you want. It is a good thing to have that sexual self-control and to be able to harness that incredible gift for the appropriate time. So if you're attempting to avoid a pregnancy, abstaining from sexual intercourse when the egg is present is the key to making this method work. That's what I meant earlier when I said when it's used properly, because a lot of people don't want to do that. A lot of people don't want to avoid in that time. And Contraception gives you the ability to have sex whenever you want, but I'm challenging that because I don't think that's the best thing for you. I think the best thing for you is to use self-control to be able to give of yourself in sexual intimacy. And so if you and your spouse have decided that avoiding a pregnancy is what God's having for you right now, or what God's calling you to right now, utilizing those times of not fertility when the egg's not there is the key to that. Now, some of you may be listening, or maybe every single person watching this video is thinking, okay, how is that any different from contraception? I do not understand how just not having sex when there's no egg is any different from putting a barrier method or altering hormones so that you're not pregnant, or so that you're not fertile and can't get pregnant. And here's the difference. It was God's idea to not make the couple fertile all the time. Like I said, a man is fertile all the time, but a woman is only fertile about a fourth of the time. So the couple is only fertile a fourth of the time. And that was God's idea. If God intended for a couple to have a baby every single time they had sex, then both people would be fertile all the time. But because that's not the case, we can read into that is not God's intention, that it's not God's intention for every time a couple comes together in sexual intimacy that they have a baby. So what NFP is doing is it is tapping into that design that God gave us. It's learning how God created the bodies. It is learning the natural periods of infertility. Why do I keep saying periods? It's the natural seasons of infertility in the couple's day-to-day life and utilizing those days. But it also does not cut God completely out of the scenario, because if the Lord really wanted to make a baby from your union in that moment, you're not putting anything in between you and that happening, right? The Lord could still conceive a baby. And so using natural family planning in your marriage is more than just a family planning method. It truly is a cultural shift. It is a shift in the mindset of the couples to trust God with their fertility. The reason why so many people have a hard time using natural family planning and being open to fertility awareness methods, in addition to not wanting to use sexual self-control, in addition to buying into the lie that you should be able to have sex whenever you want, with whomever you want, in any capacity that you want. The real root here, and I'm just going to be totally blunt, is that you don't trust God. You don't trust that God is a good father who's going to give you good gifts. You don't trust that the Lord wants to bless you, that he wants your happiness, that you were destined for an eternal exchange of love with love himself. We've bought into the lie, the age-old lie, the very first lie that ever existed when the snake came and tempted Adam and Eve and basically said, God is not trustworthy, he's lying to you, and you can't trust him. You have to take this into your own hands. And that's why, if I really get down into it and I'm really blunt and honest with you, that's why most people have a hard time with this. Because at the end of the day, they don't want to give God the ability to bless them with a child when they think they don't want one. They don't want to believe that God's plan could be better than the plan that they have for themselves. And so they take matters into their own hands, literally, and they put a barrier between them and God, between the gift of themselves to each other and God. That is hard. If you are sitting here and you're like, yeah, that's me, I want to challenge you to take that to the Lord. He is not afraid of your questions. He is not afraid of your doubt. I believe, Lord, help my unbelief, or I want to believe, help my unbelief. The Lord loves that prayer. He wants to rush in and he wants you to trust him. And he allows these very complicated issues that matter a lot to us to exist so that we can come to recognize the areas that we don't trust him, the areas we've believed the lie of the snake, the areas that we have given ourselves over to thinking that he doesn't have our best interests at heart, thinking we don't have a good father, and he wants to heal that in you. I hope that this video was helpful for you. I hope you heard it in the spirit in which I was trying to say it, which is non-judgmentally. I'm a married woman. I have kids. I have been through the journey of, do I trust God with my fertility? Do I believe that he is going to bless me and he's a good father and he loves me? I have been on that journey myself, so I understand in some capacity where you guys are coming from. I'm not judging at all. I am wanting to tell you the truth that I wish I'd heard when I was 13 years old. And I want to tell you this truth so that whatever age you are, you're able to learn it and live it and have that true freedom that comes with trusting that you have a good father and he wants the goodness for you. So please make sure to like and subscribe and comment and click the little dingy bell situation. We are so excited to have you here. We want you to know what videos are coming, and we want you to be aware of those things. So make sure you do all that. And until next time, stay close to the heart of Jesus and be not afraid. Bye.